So we've gone over the basics, and if you've gotten this far, you can probably sculpt something pretty cool. And I'm going to do some demos at the end of this ZBrush Core walkthrough and just try some stuff out and see how it goes. Because there's a lot of things I would do in regular ZBrush that I can't do in here, but it's kind of a fun challenge to see what I can get away with in this interface with this kind of focused environment in here. So now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to sculpt a little bit better of a face on here. So we got a little bit of a mouth on here. I'm going to hit L to turn on my lazy mouse. I'm going to go up here to stroke and just crank up my lazy radius just a bit. And I'm also going to go in here with my clay brush, and I'm going to start just brushing out a little bit of a face here. And what I'm going to do now is just go in here with my move brush. And again, I have those assigned to hotkeys, and check out the hotkey menu if you want more info on that, or the hotkey videos. And you know what? I'm going to actually assign, I like having pinch, Control Alt. I'm going to assign that to Alt Y, and now I can just do Alt Y to go into pinch here. And then, so we use a standard brush to cut in, and then clay brush to kind of build out. Looking good. That is a good looking little gremlin face there. So now what I'm going to do is I want to add some subtools to this guy. So number one, we're going to get into the subtool menu and do some of the cool stuff that's in here, and also get into subtool organization. So the first thing I'm going to do is we'll add some horns. So I'm going to go down here to my insert multi-mesh primitives, hit M, grab a cylinder. I'm going to pull one of these out, just push it in there, and now I've got horns on there. Now if I want to make multiple horns of the same type, I'm going to hit W, and I'll hold down Control Shift. And, well, I can't drag out a copy with that one, so I'm going to hit W again, and that's going to go out of gizmo mode. And now with the regular transform, I can hold down Control Shift and drag. Oh, it's not going to let me do that either. Interesting. All right, so speaking of those little challenges, let's just do it this way. So I'm going to go over here to Split, and we're going to do Split Unmask Points. So that basically means these insert mesh brushes that I've created right here are unmasked. I'm going to split them off into their own subtool. So right now, I have a tool named Mr. Smiley Other, and it has 0 subtools. Now a tool can contain any number of subtools. All right, that might be a limit in this one, I'm not sure, but you can have a bunch of subtools in a single tool. And what I'm going to do is make these horns a separate subtool. So what I'm going to do is go to the subtool and split unmask points here. And if I tap the cylinder here, you're going to see it selects the horns, and if I tap his face, and I'm tapping the names here, if you get up here, we're getting into the Boolean operations, which we talked a little bit with, we got into a little bit with Dynamesh, but we'll get into that a little bit more in a bit. But for now, we can just toggle between these two. Now, a hotkey to get between different subtools is just Alt-Tap in your screen. So we can Alt-Tap the horns here. Now, if I want to make more horns, what I can do is duplicate those horns. I can't Control-Shift-Drag anymore, but I can go into Duplicate, and now I can move these around. And now I can go in here and rotate, and you know what? Let's go ahead and scale these down. And you know, feel free to use the widget scale if you'd like, and just scale uniformly or scale along whatever axis you want. Just get used to using both of them. I'm used to using transpose, so that's what I'm going to use. And move these back here a little bit. We can rotate them around. I'm just snapping to different views so I can get a better look at where they are. And if I want to, I can duplicate this one, grab it, and then move it down, and we can go in here and hit E to scale it. You can scale it uniformly. Again, if you don't want to scale it to the world axis, you can scale it to its own axis here, like so, and we can rotate this around. Okay, so now we have 1, 2, 3 horns, and if you want to, you can click on one, you can rename it. This will be like horns large. We can click this one, rename it, horns medium, etc., horns small. And again, you can hold down Alt and just tap through your subtools here, so you don't have to be digging around in there. You can just Alt-Tap to select them. Now, you might also notice, because we inserted these meshes onto this mesh here, so if I Alt-Tap this mesh, I go to Geometry and Dynamesh, I have a Dynamesh with 128 resolution. If I Alt-Tap this one, it also has Dynamesh with 128 resolution. So your insert meshes will inherit any properties your tool has, and when you split it off into its own tool, it will still have those inherited properties. So what I mean by that is these horns right here are actually Dynameshes. They're not Dynameshes yet, they're still just single faces, but if I Control Drag, it's going to just Dynamesh it with the same resolution as my original subtool, or my original tool. So let's go ahead and make a mohawk on this guy. I'm going to go here to my Insert Mesh Primitives. I'm going to hit M, grab a cube. I'm going to go to the top here, and I'm just going to drag it out. Now, I had this selected, and this I drew on the top of his head. So as long as it's visible, you will be able to drag onto any visible subtool, even if it's not this subtool right here. I can undo that, and I can drag a cube off of this thing, I can drag a cube off of this thing, and I can drag a cube off of this thing. Doesn't really matter. But what I do want to do is go to split unmask points again, and then I'm going to alt-tap his mohawk here. I'm going to use W, and I'm going to use transpose to just non-uniformly scale this. Hit R to rotate it, W to move it in, and let's see if we have geometry modified topology. There's a mirror and weld in here. I'm going to mirror and weld that across the x-axis just to make sure it's symmetrical. And I'm going to go in here with a big move brush. I'm just going to move this in and around. And if you want to, you can use transpose to just move this up. You can use shift to kind of smooth it out a little bit. Go to the side and just kind of give them a nice mohawk here. And again, I can control drag and make that all a Dynamesh at the same resolution. In fact, if I go in here, I'm going to temporarily merge these down. So I have a head here, and I have, it's called horns medium. I'm going to go ahead and rename this to hair. Now, if I want to merge the hair and the head down, what I can do is hold down shift and tap this bent up arrow, and that'll shoot it all the way to the top of my subtools. Now I can alt tap this head and hold down shift and shoot it all the way to the top. That way it doesn't matter where they are in my subtool list. I can also do the opposite. I can hold down shift and shoot it to the bottom, and the hair I can just tap this and just kind of move it in the middle. So it's like instead of digging around here and looking for hair in the face, I can just alt tap the face, hold down shift, shoot it to the top by holding down shift and hitting the bent up arrow. Alt tap the hair, hold down shift with the bent arrow, shoot it all the way to the top, and I know my first two subtools are going to be hair and head. Now I can go down here to merge, and we can merge down, and now these two are merged. And if I zoom in, even though they were Dynamesh separately, they're the exact same Dynamesh resolution because they all inherited the original properties of this. Now if I want to split these two apart, let's see what options we got. We don't have a group split, but we can hold down Control Shift, tap the hair. That's all one polygroup, and now we can do split hidden. So we can split those back apart. We've got our head, we've got our hair. Now it inherited the name, so you might want to go in here and rename this head or whatever. Or you don't have to rename them. Honestly, I don't name subtools. I just alt tap them in here.